On this edition of This Old Bike, we're going to dive into the carburetor on this 2006 DR200 Suzuki. The DR200 is a great beginner's bike, a simple bike, and as such, as a beginner's bike, and maybe it's a wife's bike or girlfriend's bike, they often tend to sit around a lot and gunk up the carburetor. So if you can prevent that in the first place by using some carburetor additive, seafoam, or something like that in the fuel tank, you can prevent having to do this job. But in the event you have to clean the carburetor, it's a pretty simple job. I highly recommend learning how to do it yourself. Even as a beginner, you'll learn a lot about your machine and you'll save you a ton of money. If your carburetor is badly gunked up, you can get a complete carburetor rebuild kit for 40 or 50 bucks. All the gaskets and jets you can replace. Now this DR is a classic example, 2006 model, and it's got a total of 27 miles on it, so it's been sitting around for a very long time. It has been run periodically. Everything appears to be in good shape, no corrosion. So we'll open this thing up and show you some of the things to get in here and clean, and we're just going to use some brake cleaner for a quick backyard cleanup overhaul of your carburetor. To get to the carburetor, remove two side panels, a seat, and the fuel tank. When you remove the fuel tank, you're going to need to remove the main fuel line and the vacuum line. From there, you can just loosen up the two bands and push the carburetor back into the air box, and it'll come out of the motorcycle. Don't forget to remove your throttle cable as well. This is a Mikuni constant velocity carburetor, which means it uses a vacuum up here on a diaphragm to raise and lower the main jet needle. So when you roll on the throttle, you're only having to open up the butterfly valve, and vacuum raises the needle. So I got this partially disassembled. Let's open it up. Let's see what we got here. Anytime you clean these carburetors, these constant velocity carburetors, the first thing you got to do is get this diaphragm out of the way. You do not want to hit the diaphragm with this brake cleaner or any kind of carburetor cleaner. You'll ruin this, potentially, the diaphragm. And that's the diaphragm that actuates the slide, which raises and lowers the needle. Well, let's pop the float bowl open. And hopefully yours is nice and clean. This gasket, however, is busted. That's part of the problem. And there's the guts to your carburetor. The float assembly. The main jet. That's where this needle slides up and down into. And the pilot jet located in there. And underneath these floats is the float needle. So the next thing is to pop the floats out. This pin should just punch right out. Pretty simple and elegant design. There's the pin. Here's the floats. And this little tab, don't bend it unless you need to adjust your float level. That's how you adjust the float level to get the proper amount of fuel in your float bowl. I would suggest just leaving that alone. Okay, inside this main jet is the needle, the float needle. This is what shuts the fuel off when the bowl is full of fuel. From here we can unscrew the main jet take out the needle jet with this screw here. And the choke, it's a 2-position choke, 2 out to start when it's cold, 1 in while it warms up, and then all the way in to run. We can take this apart as well and squirt some gunk in there. There's one more jet here in the top of the diaphragm. So we're going to take gunk and squirt it in all these different holes and get things cleaned out and running right. Okay, here's the float needle. Comes out with this Phillips screw here. Okay, there's the main, or the needle, the float needle jet. It's got an O-ring and a bit of a filter on there too, it looks like. Give that a good squirt. The main jet right here. Pop it out with a straight screwdriver. There's a little washer spacer in there. You're going to want to clean out that orifice with the gunk as well. And then your pilot jet right in there. And right here is your idle mixture needle. Should be set about 1.5 to 2 turns out from all the way in. This one seems to be set about 2.5 turns out. So let's pop it open and give it a good cleaning. A nice sharp little needle, just like your old model airplane engines. Looks like another O-ring on the tip of that. You do remember working on old model airplane engines, right? It's all electric nowadays on those models. We can pull the choke assembly right out of here. Unthreads right there. Spring and a plunger. That allows additional fuel in for starting. Give this a good squirt down as well. Now, keeping away from the diaphragm, you want to just blast everything in the carburetor with a good blast of carb cleaner. Watch your eyes. Do not get this stuff in your eyes. Once you get your carburetor all cleaned out, reassemble it, and we'll test the floats. Reinstall the needle seat, filter side down, new O-ring if you got the rebuild kit. Press in, should be flush. Brass on the aluminum so you can seat it with your little set screw. Don't cross thread any threads. Reinstall the main jet right here. These jets are basically Venturis. They're brass Venturis. The size of the opening determines the performance of the carb and thus the performance of the bike. So if you go changing things around like exhaust pipes and air boxes, you're going to need to increase the size of your jet, so the main jet here. And of course, the payoff for that is you're going to burn more fuel. So we're keeping this one all stock for now. You see each of these jets has a number on it corresponding to the size. Put the choke assembly back together. Check it for operation. All the way out. One click in, all the way in for run. Now drop the needle back into its seat. This is a metal tip needle. Take a look for wear and tear on that. Some of these needles have rubber or neoprene tips that are affected by today's modern fuels. So that just gets dropped right into there. Then the floats. Make sure the correct side is up. And reinstall the pin. Check for freedom of movement. Now let's test the floats real quick. Put your fuel line on here. Don't mash down on the floats. Blow into your fuel line with the floats in the down position. The valve should be open so that the fuel can fill up the float bowl. Roll your carburetor upside down. See the floats close. check now to make sure that valve is closed, and it is. Otherwise you can get, it's pretty common for these things to stick open a little bit and fuel will just leak out all over the place, especially if you're storing the bike inside a garage or a shed and you start leaking fuel all over the place. Got a real problem there. Therefore, if you got a normal petcock, always turn the fuel off when you store the bike. We'll talk about this vacuum operated stock petcock and some of the problems associated with that here in the next segment. Renew your gasket and put the float bowl assembly on. This one's busted. Got to get a new one. Screw your float bowl back on. This, by the way, is a drain valve. With an Allen wrench you can quickly drain your float bowl. If you get water or sediment in there in the field, you can do a quick drain right there. This, by the way, is your idle set screw. All it does is simply mechanically raises the butterfly valve to increase your idle. Let's take a look at your needle inside of here. There's your main needle and the spacer and the clip. That clip on most bikes is adjustable, and you can adjust this needle slightly up or down by the position of this clip. Okay, that sits in there like that. And this goes in. There's a tab on your diaphragm. Line that up with the tab right there. Carefully get your needle back in the hole here. Check your gasket and reinstall the top cover. Just snug. Okay, with that, let's go get some fresh gas. Get all that old gas out of that tank. Reinstall the carb. See how she goes. The Mikuni CV carburetor on the DR200. Remember, keep the gunk off of the rubber diaphragm. Keep track of your parts, and you can learn to do this yourself and save you some big labor bucks at the local motorcycle shop. To reinstall the carb back on the bike, you shouldn't need to remove anything else. There should be enough play here in the air box to shove it back in there. Kind of like the proverbial monkey holding Congress with a football. Keep massaging it to get the boot. There we go. Ta-da! Make sure you got the boot all the way around, both the front and back of the carburetor, and here the carburetor should line up with the notch right here, and get the carburetor leveled up. Reinstall your bands. The big one goes in the front of the intake, and this goes on the airbox. The big one on the airbox. Reinstall your throttle cable. Thread it into the housing first. That nut's set about where we had it when we took it apart. Adjust it so the throttle feels right. Roll the butterfly forward. Just line that up. Let's connect it now. Check. Should have a little bit of play there before it starts pulling on the throttle. All the way open and close. Check your handlebars for full range of motion, that there's no binding on the throttle cable. Tighten up the lock nut with the 10mm wrench. Okay, now that we got the bike back together, tank on, seat, and side panels, I want to show you the plumbing. Using the stock vacuum operated petcock, the main fuel line goes from here to there. And the vacuum fuel line on the other side Runs from here to the back side of your petcock to provide the vacuum to open the petcock to allow fuel to be delivered to the carburetor. And here is your overflow line, connects right here. And that's it, other than the throttle cable. So to start the bike, move the fuel lever to the prime position. That allows fuel to flow into the carburetor without any vacuum. Once the bike starts, we'll move this to the on position. Like magic, movie magic, I actually had to do a pretty aggressive bump start procedure to get this damn thing to go. It's pretty cold-blooded in the morning. But anyways, now you can turn the fuel to on and take the choke off. Little sewing machine, nice and quiet. Get the thing back together and it just doesn't run right, don't